Hello, everybody. This is William del Pilar, and this is the Red, White, and Rude, where I talk about the intersectionality of culture and politics. Because as Andrew Breitbart said, politics is downstream of culture, and I break it down as to why it's important for us to stay informed and to push back. Tonight, we're going to talk about the fall, not really a fall, the continual decline of Howard Stern to the point Sirius has no more use for him. Hint. At his height, 20 million listeners. The last few years, 125,000 daily listeners. They're paying that man 100 million a year, and he still thinks he's worth it. But the big story tonight will be Gina Carano and her decisive victory over Disney. And what I find disheartening is this should have been front page story on Patrick Bet-David, Megyn Kelly, the Ruthless podcast, all these Joe Rogan, all these big name podcasts. She should be the guest on right now this week. And she wasn't. And she should have. And we'll talk a bit about that, what this victory means. And then we'll close it out with the rude rundown. And that is my lightning round. We'll talk about the Fantastic Four. I'll finally give you some numbers. And no, it's not going to make its money back. It's not, I don't want to say it's a flop, but it's another black eye for Disney. And they're still in denial. Maybe this loss to Gina Carano will make Iger wake up. Then Dean Cain, God bless him, he's going to become part of ICE, despite the fact he's 59. And Valve accuses Mastercard of indirectly forcing Steam adult content purge, and how Trump has come to the rescue. Before we do that, though, do not forget to bookmark grumblingsmedia.com. Bookmark grumblingsmedia.com. You can also follow us on YouTube, Rumble, Apple, Spotify, and Pandora under the handle Grumblings Media. In the meantime, if you're watching this, hey, give it a thumbs up. Excuse me, give it a thumbs up there. I truly appreciate that. I cannot keep growing. I cannot exist without your support, and that helps. Actually, I was told it helps with the algorithm. But just give it a thumbs up if you can, please. So let's get right into it. Gina Carano. Disney settlement resolves firing dispute. So, Gina Carano, she was abruptly fired from The Mandalorian back in 2021. And that ignited what was once, no longer now, but a fierce legal battle over free expression and corporate control and corporate hypocrisy. And it culminated in a settlement. But that settlement exposes the high stakes that clashing viewpoints in Hollywood have. And it exposes the hypocrisy when you go after only one side. There wouldn't be much of any kind of battle if they let both sides speak their piece. But in their defense of corporate Hollywood, they're smart to hire people who aren't going to sit there and hurt the film's value in terms of keeping people from going to see it because they don't want to support an actor or actress. So this resolution forces a reckoning with selective enforcement of standards, where one actor's post led to termination, while similar actions by others went unchecked, Pedro Pascal. This will, well, technically, I guess I should say, will potentially reshape how entertainment giants handle employee speech. No, it will change it. With this out-of-court settlement, it was out-of-court settlement because they knew they were going to lose. They knew they were going to lose big time. I apologize. My producer was sending me a note. But anyway, so Disney saw the writing on the wall and they settled. And this will send ramifications because no one wants to have their skeletons exposed out in public. And that's what would have happened here. This outcome amplifies the risk, Disney's risk in this case, of overreach, as companies more and more are facing backlash for decisions that alienate talent and the audience. So, a little bit of background about this incident. Gina Carano, she's a former MMA fighter and now actress. She was portraying Cara Dune in The Mandalorian. She was fired by Lucasfilm in February 2021. Lucasfilm is owned by Disney. After a series of social media posts that sparked the controversy. I actually have those posts. So Lucasfilm's firing statement described Carano's post as, they're saying this is what Gina Carano's post meant to them: abhorrent and unacceptable, for denigrating people based on cultural and religious identities, adding there were, quote, no plans for her to be in the future, meaning she was done, not only with the Mandalorian, but with literally anything they produce. So this led to her being dropped by not only being fired, but being dropped by United Talent Agency and per Carano losing her agent, attorney, and future opportunities. In essence, what Disney had done is they had blacklisted her. Because of her social media post, her First Amendment freedom. They didn't like it. They found it denigrating. And it wasn't. Here's the full statement. Gina Carano is not currently employed by Lucasfilm, and there are no plans for her to be in the future. Nevertheless, her social media posts denigrating people based on their cultural and religious identities are abhorrent and unacceptable. Well, let's check some of this stuff out that Gina said and see how, if you find it abhorrent. First of all, this is true. Jews were beaten in the streets not by Nazi soldiers, but by their neighbors, even by children. And what she's referencing there is Jews were turning Jews in. History doesn't really talk about that, but that's an indisputable fact. Some say there are various theories. Nobody knows exactly how they were discovered, but some believe, and there are some legit theories, that Anne Frank was turned in by fellow Jews. She goes on to say in this Instagram post, because history is edited, most people today don't realize that to get to the point where Nazi soldiers could easily round up thousands of Jews, the government first made their own neighbors hate them simply for being Jews. How is that any different from hating someone for their political views? And that's true. That is damn true. You know what I just realized? Let me do a shift here. No, can't do that. You got me playing around with you. Let me try it this way. There we go. So what she's saying is absolutely true. And what she's using that is as an analogy to what's happening here. They want neighbors to turn in conservatives. And that was happening during the Obama era. People were getting fired. And by turning them in, people would call their workplace. You know, this guy said this, this. And the company didn't want to deal with him, so they fired the guy and let him go. Now, I fully expect some of these individuals are going to go back, and now that the winds of change are here, we'll sue for wrongful termination. So that was one of the posts. Here was another one. In regards to pronouns. And I'm one. What's your pronoun? GFY. Go bleep yourself. IAG. I am God. You can just make them up. I have no respect for pronouns. I don't. I'm going to call you by your name, your given and legal name. You're a nut job. This is how I like to be called, Fluffy the dog. Well, I'm going to call you by your name, Joe. I don't care if you're dressing up as Jules, Joe. And I turn it around on people. Stop triggering me. You're triggering me. They hate that. Or they hate it when they start to play the race card. Yo soy Latino. Vete carajo. ¿De qué tú estás hablando? And when it's another Latino and they don't speak Spanish, that really pisses them off. Because these people have no leg to stand on. They gain a leg to stand on because we capitulate. And here she's referencing, they're mad because I won't put pronouns in my bio to show my support for trans lives. After months of harassing me in every way. See, they're harassing her to do it. They're doing what they say they despise. They're doing to her. She goes, after months of harassing me in every way, I decided to put 3 very controversial words in my bio. Beat, bop, boop. I'm not against trans lives at all. They need to find less abusive representation. And I'm in agreement. Why? Because y'all lie to us. Oh, hormone bloggers, they don't do anything. You know, my partner sat there and tried to throw it in my face as the STDS says, well, Trump says hormone blockers. And I said, yeah, Trump's wrong. I disagree with him. Trump's throwing that out there to find middle ground. I disagree with him. He's wrong on that. But I told him the most important aspect is that's not even anywhere near the agenda of topics to talk about. And I know why he did it, and he's wrong still. You see, I don't profess to believe and go with somebody 100%, or they're wrong, or you're not my friend, or this or that. And that's how it was thrown at me. Well, Trump's wrong on this. Why aren't you bitching about that? Well, I'm telling you right now, I disagree. But to me, there's more important topics to deal with. But y'all have made that the topic for your brand. So what else did Senorita Gina have to say? Now, this is one I have said over and over in regards to the election process. We need to clean up the election process so we are not left feeling the way we do today. Put laws in place that protect us against voter fraud. Investigate every state, film the counting, flush out the fake votes, require ID, make voter fraud end in 2020, fix the system. That's all sound and sane advice. But the reason she got pushback is they don't want us to have voter ID. It's as Stalin said, it's not who votes, but he who counts the votes. I just said the quote in the previous podcast. So that's what she's saying, but she's attacked. Why? Because white Americans, mostly suburbanites and highly educated, they tell you, Black America, and they tell my Latino brethren, pardon me, Latinos, that we too stupid to know how to go vote, where to go vote. We too poor to afford ID. Massa, what can I get ID? I ain't got dollar on me. Hey, Joe, how's your mama doing? I'm going to go see her. How you going to get on board? I'm showing my ID. Where'd you get your ID? The DMV just down the road. We're not stupid. So she got flack for that. What else? Oh, here was the best one. Breaking news. Democratic government leaders now recommends we all wear blindfolds along with masks so we can't see what's really going on. We were proven right. We were proven right. It turns out that was a lie. That was an unadulterated lie. It was just some number they pulled out of their butts and said 6 feet apart. No science behind that. No science behind that. Think about that. No science behind that. And they wanted to cancel her because she told the truth. Now, obviously, as I said, she described her ordeal that made her unhireable and took an emotional toll. And I can see why. She has no way to make a living. Quote, you're just carrying around this disrespect and you're shouldering all this shame and it affects you physicality, your mentality. You're just kind of hopeless. I get it. And here's the worst part. Big Brother, George Orwell. Disney allegedly required Carano to attend a re-education camp involving a Zoom meeting with a GLAAD transgender representatives and another 45 members of Disney Lucasfilm's LGBTQ affinity group. And she said no. You see, they don't want to have a conversation. They want to indoctrinate you. They want to put you in your place. This wasn't, hey, let's sit down and talk about this. This was like, no, you will go to an indoctrination center with our preferred transgender LGBTQ XYZ ABCD FGH people. But she did reach out and go, hey, I'll take the trans leaders to dinner instead. But Disney reportedly said, well, that was a litmus test. The fact that you're not going to go shows you're not willing to play along. Of course she wasn't willing to play along. She didn't want to sit there and be lectured to by a bunch of pompous ass individuals who have been empowered with hate. So Carano filed a lawsuit in February in California federal court against Disney and Lucasfilm, even though Disney owns Lucasfilm, this subsidiary. And she alleged wrongful termination, sex discrimination, defamation, and a violation of California labor laws for policing political views. And she claimed unequal treatment compared to male co-star Pedro Pascal, who in 2017 compared Donald Trump to Hitler and posted images misrepresenting U.S. immigration as Nazi-related with no repercussions. Now, I'm not a Pascal. I will never watch anything with that man. The man is a duck with a C. He, to me, is the most disgusting, vile excuse of a leading man and representative as to why Hollywood is losing. If that's what you call a man, just put RuPaul in a gladiator armor. Put RuPaul as Mr. Fantastic. Put RuPaul in, I forget that HBO show where they kill them all. Anyway, the suits, and I would not be against him if he was open. But Pedro Pascal is a bigot. He hates you. And if you cease to exist, he would be happy. And it's pretty much said as much in various ways with his posts because you disagree with his take on transgenderism. And God bless him, he's got a brother or something who's mentally messed up in the head and is transgender. So I get his point, but he denigrates everybody. Well, William, you're denigrating. No, I'm responding back to a bigot. Anybody, a transgender. Look, I actually helped. I remember there's a person politically where I live involved. I was friends with the individual. And you know why we stopped being friends? Because she took a different political battle within the battles of our party. You know, there's always soap opera dynamics. And she, without talking to me, she took a side. I remember she came up to me. And I hate it when people are fake. And she went out, hey, William. I said, get away from me. I don't like you. I don't like what you represent. And I'm tired of you lying to me. It was in public. And people heard that. They all stopped. They all look at us. And yes, I did it on purpose because I had a point to make. Get the bleep away from me. I don't like you. Why? Because of what she did. Had nothing to do with her being a transgender. But I digress. But my point is simple. Conservatives have nothing against people. Just stay in your lane. I'll stay in my lane. And we accept this as America. And you have the right to do what you want to say. But do not impose your bigotry and hate on me. It's that simple. Okay, the suit that Carano brought sought $75,000 in damages, reinstatement on the Mandalorian, and a court order for recasting. Carano argued her contract did not permit termination for personal views and that Disney misrepresented her post. And I believe that. My take, look, Disney took no action against Rachel Zegler for her anti-Trump outburst, bleep Donald Trump posts, and the Free Palestine statements, and going after her co-star. I forget, Gardo. Wonder Woman, the actress who played Wonder Woman. And again, nothing against Pedro Pascal for his anti-Trump posts. So how was she able to come across this victory? Well, Elon Musk came to the rescue. He funded the lawsuit as part of a pledge to support users who were facing employer discrimination. She praised Musk. Disney put in a motion to dismiss in the court proceedings. They cited First Amendment rights not to associate with Carano's speech was denied. And Carano responded, Disney has confirmed what has been known all along. They will fire you if you say anything they disagree with, even if they have to misrepresent, malign, and mischaracterize you to do it. And she's absolutely right. Now, that motion to dismiss was denied in July of last year by U.S. District Judge Sherilyn Peace Garnett. And she ruled that Disney failed to establish an impenetrable defense. Sounds like a damn chastity belt. But they failed to establish an impenetrable defense under the First Amendment at that stage, at that point in time. They noted that the disputed facts, including allegation that Carano's firing was intended to deflect attention from Disney's other controversies. So in plain English, the judge rejected Disney's attempt to quickly kill the lawsuit, stating they couldn't hide behind free speech rights because there were unresolved claims that her firing was really a ploy to distract from Disney's own scandals. They had a beef with Scarlett Johansson over the Black Widow and her contract. There was backlash. Disney really lost big in the Florida law protecting parental rights in schools. So the case moved forward. A trial was scheduled for next month, September, but obviously, as we now know, resolved early. Now, both parties filed to dismiss the case with prejudice, reaching a settlement with undisclosed terms. I wish we knew those terms. No monetary damages or rehiring was given out if that would happen. Now, Disney did come out and state that, hey, she's always respected by her peers, directors, everybody liked her. We're looking forward to possibly working in the future with her. I'm pretty sure that's probably part of the settlement. They will be working with her. Anyway, she sat there and posted on X, I've come to an agreement with Disney/Lucasfilm, which I believe is the best outcome to all parties involved. I hope this brings some healing to the Force. It's a Star Wars film or a show. She thanked Musk. Here's what Disney said. Disney Lucasfilm statement. The Walt Disney Company and Lucasfilm are pleased to announce that we have reached an agreement with Gina Carano to resolve the issues in her pending lawsuit against the companies. Miss Carano was always well respected by her directors, co-stars, and staff, and she worked hard to perfect her craft while treating her colleagues with kindness and respect. With this lawsuit concluded, we look forward to identifying opportunities to work together with Ms. Carano in the near future. She described, described the resolution as a, quote, complete and total victory, unquote, which probably tells me she got everything she wanted. She probably got the equivalent of what she would have been worth had she been on those shows. And future projects. Now, potential collaboration on The Mandalorian is unlikely due to the conclusion with, I think they're going to do a movie. It's probably going to bomb as well. But she was in Deadpool, so maybe she heads back there. Now, Forbes had an interesting comment. Public reaction from liberal audiences could influence, what Disney does. No, it's these liberal audiences is all you have, a sliver. It's your conservative audience. It's probably about 80%. I mean, everything has tanked that has been woke that they've done. Disney, literally everything. Now, in their defense, some of their movies would have been profitable, except for the fact they cost $200+ million on top of another $100 million in marketing. Why? These superhero films are no longer special. So you got to have a good story, good acting. But when you have a woke message, they're going to die. So no, the liberal audience isn't going to influence crap, Forbes. Why? Because it's that liberal audience that pushing their liberal BS onto Disney that put Disney in this position. It's just sour grapes. And here's the honest truth. I will go see a movie with her, even if it's done by Disney, to support her. And I bet you that movie will do well. And that will show the power of conservatism. So this settlement does coincide with perceived cultural shifts post-2024 presidential election since Trump got into office. We, as a public, have public fatigue with corporate censorship and their selective hypocrisy. This settlement does hold Disney accountable for inconsistent standards, even though that's why I wanted it to go to court, so it would all come out. Because once you go to court, you lose. That's precedent. But this wasn't her money. Elon was funding it. She felt, hey, I can get my life back. I can win. This will maybe encourage other lawsuits, etc. Why do I say it's going to encourage other lawsuits? Well, it's going to encourage other lawsuits, but it's also going to create a potential fallout for companies that put ideological conformity over fair treatment. CNN did this. They lost to a Navy veteran. His last name was Young. And they settled out after they lost $5 million. The punitive damages phase was going to start. And the jury, after they settled out, when they talked to the jury, we're looking at probably in excess of $100 million. And Disney did not want to risk that. So as Carano moves forward, the case against cancel culture is moving forward as well. Why? It's encouraging others to challenge similar overreaches. And it's fostering a landscape where diverse views can and should exist without the fear of reprisal. I saw that firsthand in Panama with two dictators. We fought 2 wars to avoid that. And now leftists would love to see it here. All right, my friends, let's move on to Howard Stern's SiriusXM tenure in jeopardy. So his long-running show on SiriusXM, I don't know, a couple decades maybe, it's teetering. It's not technically been canceled, but supposedly word on the street is that it's going to be canceled. Contract negotiations have stalled amid sharply declining listenership and internal disputes. Look, it was once a cultural powerhouse. It drew millions, 20 million at its height. But then he pivoted toward mainstream political endorsements and bigotry and hate on public health issues and towards Trump supporters, which was a big chunk of his audience. Not his full audience, but a big chunk of his audience. He has no more value to SiriusXM. And they're going to do away with him. So here's a post here I'd like to share. That encapsulates the Howard Stern situation. Once the king of shock radio, Howard Stern is now the face of establishment fatigue. He went from flipping off the system to parroting it, pushing COVID hate, wishing the unvaxxed dead, embracing leftist authoritarianisms, and alienating the audience that made him famous. Trump derangement syndrome didn't just warp his worldview, it broke him. Younger audiences don't know him. Older fans don't recognize him. Even Trump weighed in, calling out Stern's fall from relevance. SiriusXM paid him $100 million a year for 125,000 listeners, a pathetic fraction of his glory days. The cultural edge is gone. The rebel is dead. All that's left is a legacy host clinging to relevance. He's out of touch, out of time, and no longer worth the money. That's from a series of shorts I do. I do about 5 of them a week. So please head on over to YouTube under the profile Grumblings Media, and you can check out all my shorts. But that was my short, which kind of encompasses, I'm going to go a little bit more detail, but in a nutshell, that's why he was canceled. Well, not canceled, but his contract will not be renewed. So his Sirius show started in 2006. So almost 20 years. And it was renewed in 2020 for a 5-year, $500 million contract. I think after said and done, he'll have made a couple of billion off of Sirius in those 20 years. Now, that's not all his money. He actually is being given that money, and he does his own show, and it airs. He's got to pay the talent. He's got to pay the writers. And I think there's like 90 some odd writer, or it's like one of these Stephen Colbert late show type situations, like 90 people on staff. So he was checking some money. He was making a fat profit, but he was also checking some money. So again, insiders stating SiriusXM plans an offer to Stern, but he won't accept it because he believes he's worth $100 million. He's not. He's not worth $10 million. He's probably worth a couple million at this point a year. Now his catalog isn't even worth that much. It's dated. It's old school. But they're going to probably negotiate a price for his catalog. It's not like music where you can license that out for commercial stuff. So I don't know what value is in his catalog. But his listenership, as I said, from a peak 20 million to just 125,000 daily listeners. That's not a significant loss. He's lost about 99.4% of his audience. 99.4% of his audience. Let me say that he's lost 99.4% of his audience. That 125,000 represents 0.63% of his 20 million peak. And that audience is probably more liberal than it is conservative. Now, his heyday in the 80s into the early 2000s was politically mixed. He appealed to both conservatives and liberals nationwide. Audience was mostly white, 18 to 49. Now, as those listeners have aged, they tend to trend more conservative. Thus, that's a big reason for the massive abandonment. Plus, he did lose millions of listeners when he went to Sirius. He was a loss leader. The name drove subscriptions to SiriusXM. That's not happening anymore, especially after his post-2016 leftist pivot on Trump and then in 2020 on vaccines. Now, as of August, word's coming out that his staffers are preparing for the show's potential end. and that they've been coasting that work, and they're all withholding their best material. So they're probably giving jokes and topics and segments to talk about. One insider stated, I think this is from the New York Post, most of us have been coasting at work the last year. The last year. So the beginning of this break was 2016, obviously, but it really ramped up in 2020 with COVID. In September 2021, Stern criticized the unvaccinated, stating, quote, bleep them, or popping the F word then, bleep them, bleep their freedom. See, he doesn't want us to be free because we disagree with his scared, white, flat-ass self. I want my freedom, so bleep them, bleep their freedom. I want my freedom to live, unquote. How many people are dropping dead now with myocarditis, you moron? And he said we should be denied hospital access. Quote, go bleep yourself. You had the cure and you wouldn't take it, unquote. That shows how stupid he is. How stupid he is. I asked a couple of key questions. The first one being, will this stop COVID? No. What are the side effects? Don't know. Not taking it. Not taking it. Nope. And it was one of the very few times I went to my wife as a man and said, we are not taking this shot. Luckily, she was on my side. She was on board with that. It's one of the few times I just went to her, honey, we discussed it. No, not this time. We are not taking this shot. You know. And Stern advocated for mandatory COVID-19 vaccination. This guy just put a Hitler, a Nazi uniform on him because that's what he was talking. Nazi-esque crap. Saying we're clogging hospitals, calling them idiots and calling us idiots and imbeciles. Really, it's the ones with COVID that are dropping dead right now, that are having. I mean, there's so many things. And the studies are coming out finally proving this, that people were canceled because they said, well, let's look at this effect. This was some studies. Wrong. Terry Bradshaw, stupid. God, that guy's he's like Pritzker, just a disgusting human being to look at. Telling Aaron Rodgers, it's a horse shot, Aaron. No, you moron. You moron. Oh, by the way, Terry, I saw your reality show. He was once growing up, he was my idol. They're just waiting for you to begin your next journey. It's obvious they're waiting for that. Your girls are. Anyway, in 2022, Stern escalated his stance on the unvaccinated, stating, quote, if it was up to me, anyone unvaccinated would not be admitted to a hospital. You're going to go home and die, unquote. He was a useful idiot. A useful idiot. He even mocked those who did die from COVID-19 who weren't vaccinated. This makes me, I'm not going to go there, but let's just say I'm not happy. Then he endorsed Hillary Clinton in 2016, big turning point. And Trump used to do his show a lot. Even Trump said, boy, you're going to go down and you're going to lose your audience. And that kind of happened. I mean, he went completely woke. Transgender, this, I can see that. That's part of his shtick, his crowd. So I can see that. And that doesn't bother me. What bothers me is how he did it, how he pushed the hate. And again, people, I'm reacting to him. Hate begets hate. You want to hate on that? I can hate right back. You want to sit down and talk like normal human beings and be kind of one another? I can do that too. If woke means I can't get behind Trump, dude, call me woke as you bleeping wah, unquote. He's just a stupid, scared man. You know, there was a story that it was a couple years, literally, once COVID hit, he only left his basement from his mansion a couple times. He became this old, rich, white dude, scared to die. Scared to die. And leading up to the 2024 election, he gave one of the most embarrassing interviews ever. He wouldn't even let Biden talk. Biden was like, Stern's and I talking. You were magnificent here, and you were there. That was Howard Stern's interview to Joe Biden. As Biden's looking there dumbfounded. And then he says, I don't agree with Trump politically. I hate the people who vote for him. I think they're stupid. And then Trump did what he does best, labeled him what he is, a beta male. Stern, because we live in a civilized society, we're seen as a rebel. But in reality, he's a beta male, doesn't have a spine or backbone in his body. because he wasn't even asking many questions. He was asking the question and answering them for Biden. He went from an edgy rebel, as I said in the short, to embracing the George Orwellian state, the ideologies that create George Orwell institutions. COVID-19 radicalized him. I mean, he went from rebel to loser. He went from rebel to bureaucratic Orwellian statesman. This is what caught my attention was in 2023 this is when I realized he's done. He's completely done. He complained on his show that he was ignored by black Knicks players while sitting courtside at Madison Square Garden, that they greeted black celebrities like Chris Rock and Tracy Morgan, but not him. He thought it was racial, and he was frustrated over his lack of recognition. No, by 2023, nobody knows who you are. You do a radio show. You're never in the public eye because for many years you were holed up in your home, your mansion. You shot your show from there. Nobody knows who you are anymore. It had nothing to do with racism. If you're somebody rich and famous at courtside, they would have recognized you. They knew you. They're just like, who's this old geezer? That's what they saw. An old white geezer scared to die. Some of the reactions. Chris Gore and Gary Buchler of Nerdotic, they describe Stern's involvement from raunchy outsider to literally a sellout, which is what he is. Then let's not forget his pre-COVID blackface jokes. Then he's condemning everybody else for racism, for doing what he did. Comedians or people making jokes. He's just an idiot. Now, staff insiders, they link some of the audience alienation to him being woke. One staffer said, don't know if it's wokeness that alienated some of his audience or if he just got tamer with age. But whatever it is, it's apparent no one wants to hear it anymore. We're done with him. So this backlash is one, granted, his time is over and he wasn't able to maintain relevancy. He thought going woke would continue his relevance, and it didn't. His eroded audience and stalled current negotiations. What this is underscoring is an accountability that's facing media icons. Anderson Cooper's going to get it. He ain't worth $10 million a year. These big names that used to get these monster contracts, no. People are listening to my podcast, other podcasts, the Rogans of the world, the Megyn Kellys of the world. And I got this little small podcast, and with your help, it's growing. But the days of Stern owning it, no, they ended a couple of decades ago. This saga reflects deeper national divides in entertainment, where political stances are now dictating relevance or a lack of. See Stephen Colbert. And they're setting the stage for emerging voices to challenge. What that means is conservative voices are coming up. Joe Rogan's the current monster. But Megyn Kelly's rising. The Ruthless Podcast, they're rising. Time's changing. You better be hip and stick with it or you will lose relevance. All right. We got a couple minutes here. Let's do a quick rundown here, the Rude Rundown. Disney CEO Bob Iger claims box office flop Fantastic Four first steps as a Marvel Comics universe success. I found this through a few sources, but the first one I found it on was Breitbart. So Bob Iger described the underperforming Fantastic Four as successful Marvel Comics Universe launch. He did that during the earnings call. And that's because it opened to 125 million, but it suffered a 66% second weekend drop. That's massive, massive. And right now it's following flops like the Thunderbolts and the Marvels, which suffered a 78% drop. Not as bad, 10% less. That's not good. It's currently grossed about 385 million. However, it costs 200 million and 170 million to market. So if we use the Hollywood break-even formula, which is 2.5 times the combined production and marketing costs, the film has to make $925 million at the global box office to break even. It's not going to make that. It's at 385, 66% drop in week 1 or week 2. No. Now, 2.6%, it's looking at about 960 million, almost $1 billion. Now, we used to use a 3.0, the 3-point multiplier. They no longer do that. I think they realized no movie would make a profit, but maybe they changed some terms, but they would make them gross over $1 billion. This movie will not make its money back. However, I believe part of it's when characters deviate from their comic origins, it often hurts a film's appeal. Plus, we don't have superhero fatigue. We have woke superhero fatigue. Johnny Storm, classic ladies, man. That was his persona. It's been toned down. Now he's more self-aware. No womanizing. And that was just for the kids. Comics are for kids. Sue Storm, traditionally a maternal figure. Now she's a feminazi to some, a strong feminist other. She's not what she is supposed to be. An anchor that helps tie the group down from a matriarchal perspective with Reed Richards as a team leader, which he isn't anymore. And you know what? He never had a mustache. And while that may sound silly, character matters. Then there's also Pedro Pascal, who plays him. A lot of people like myself, we're not going to spend a dime. They go, I wanted to go see it. I love the layout, the way it had that futuristic Fallout 50s, 60s look, but modernized. But I'm not going to support Pedro Pascal, a bigot. That's simple. Dean Cain announced his plan to join ICE. So ICE lifted its age requirement. Dean Cain is 59. He's going to become a member of ICE. He announced that on Fox News. He has about 10 years as a reserve police officer. And they upped their budget. Now, John Leguizamo attacked Cain on Instagram. He called him, quote, moron. And he mocked his career status. Cain was diplomatic. Then there's Margaret Cho. She directed racially charged criticism at Cain, referencing his Japanese heritage and family's World War II internment camp history. And she accused him of trying to be white. Here's my take. Margaret Cho, that's one woman who is not attractive. I'm being diplomatic. She thrives on tribalism, victimhood, and race baiting. Why? That's her shtick now. And her bigoted, yes, they were bigoted attacks on Cain, are a disgrace. And John Leguizamo, boy, he embodies capitulation and the plantation mentality. Massa. What you want me to say, Massa? Okay, I'll go say Massa. That's who John Leguizamo. It's it's ridiculous and disgusting. Because all he does is represent the stereotypes of blacks and now Latinos doing what the plantation masters want us to do. Case in point, he pushes that Latinx crap. And he vehemently attacks people early on, not as much anymore, who didn't care for Latinx. You know what? About 2% of Latinos per polls are okay with that. And those 2%, they tend to be progressives. As far as Margaret Cho, whatever the hell, and go screw you people who disagree with me. I have Asian in my family too. So yeah, I'm going to talk about it when I want and how I want. You don't get to tell me what I can talk about with my culture. Dean is prioritizing American identity that promotes a national prosperity, strong American values. And what Margaret Cho is doing, destroying those American values. What John Leguizamo is doing is destroying. Because he's not being white. He is being an American first, who is proud of his cultural background. As I'm proud of being Latino, Puerto Riqueño, Panameño. But I am an American first. All right. Valve accuses Mastercard of indirectly forcing Steam adult content purge, and the Trump executive order is going to end those financial censorship. I may talk about this more next week. I don't know. But Valve claims Mastercard pressured payment processors and acquiring banks to reject adult game transactions on Steam, leading to delistings. At the same time, well, not same time, shortly thereafter, Trump put out an executive order that prohibits denials of financial services for lawful content based on reputational risk. So Valve asserts that Mastercard invoked Rule 5.12.7, which bans patently offensive content. Not illegal, offensive. And under that rule, it's lacking artistic value. Who is Mastercard to determine what is artistic value when leftists have deemed somebody peeing on the Virgin Mary is art in New York City some years back? Now, Mastercard was threatening processors with $200,000 fines or $2,500 daily penalties. So Trump, his guaranteeing fair banking for all American orders that was signed just a couple of days ago, it directs regulators like the FDIC, OCC, Federal Reserve, CFPB, NCUA, and SBA to eliminate reputational risk from guidance, defining unlawful debanking as restricting services for political, religious, or lawful business reasons. There's about a 180-day review. You got 180 days to get your act together, is what he's saying, or we're coming after you. It's focusing on debanking in the adult entertainment and gaming, and this is going to potentially allow Valve to challenge Mastercard's pressures as unlawful, disrupting censorship on Steam and itch.io for legal content. In simple terms, this EO gives Valve a way to fight back against Mastercard's squeeze by complaining to regulators who could force payment processors to handle their legal adult games on Steam without reputational excuses. So in essence, it could restore delisted titles. If it's legal, it should be allowed. These companies have become gatekeepers to allow businesses to thrive or die. Without them, we can't do business. Because I'm conservative, MasterCard can sit there and say, we're not going to allow any processing for you. Look, people, especially to you, my libertarian friends, the world is not black and white. And these companies can't claim to be private when they dominate the industries and access to our ability to make money. That's why I like limited government who can step in and protect we, the constituent, from this nonsense. If the world was black and white, we wouldn't be having this issue. These banks work with leftist groups and Democrats to cancel conservatives. Happening with guns. There were some processors that wouldn't process because it was a gun company. And what you morons on the left and some libertarians may not realize that today you align with them, but the moment you step out of line, once you control the landscape and get what you want, they're going to do the same to you. History proves this example. During the French Revolution, the initial revolutionaries like the Girondins, they were guillotined by the Jacobins after they worked together to establish a new regime. And let's not forget how Hitler's government convinced Jews to turn one another in, only to seek to kill them all once they were no longer needed. Simple truths. That's my show. I hope you enjoyed it. It's time we fought back, because when we do, we win. Why? Because we have the righteous truth on our side. We seek equality. We seek fairness. We don't seek one side to do more than what they should. Just give us the opportunity to live right and to live by one another peacefully. That truth that we have, equality and justice for all, based off American values, values that others would see destroyed. Whether it's Gina Carano's decisive win over Disney or Howard Stern being rejected by America, we are exceptional when we stand for what's right. We did it in times of war, and now it's time to do it in the cultural wars. Kudos to Dean Cain for putting American values above his cultural values. Again, I'm proud of my Latino and Hispanic culture. I am both technically, but I'm an American first. I'm here to cut through the noise, people, to explain the why, to explain what they hope you'll ignore. Before I go, once again, please don't forget to bookmark grumblingsmedia.com and follow us on YouTube, Apple, Rumble, Spotify under the handle Grumblings Media. Until next week, I am William del Pilar, your conservative cultural host who is Latino, bringing every blunt truth and spicy jab on the red, white, and rude, where clarity still beats conformity. I'll get on my accent. Where clarity still beats conformity. Y'all have a good one.
Hey everybody, this is Big John from Grumblings Media, and I just want to say thank you for watching our content. If you want to support our efforts here at Grumblings Media, just smash the subscribe button right here, totally free, or just go ahead and consume more of our great content. Click either one of these two boxes.